Before we begin, please be advised that viewer discretion is strongly recommended. None of the content presented here has been exaggerated or taken out of context. These are the exact opening statements made by the prosecution team, defense team, on May 12th, 2025. Some words have been censored to comply with YouTube's guidelines. What you're about to hear is a voiced-over reading of the opening statements from the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Source: courtroom reporter at Inner City Press on X.com. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Listen at your own discretion.
This is Sean Combs. To the public, he was a cultural icon, a businessman, larger than life. But there was another side to him. Over the course of this trial, you will hear about 20 years of the defendant's crimes. He had a team to help him, crimes that included kidnapping, arson, drug trafficking, and sex crimes. Let's begin with just one night. The defendant was hunting for his girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. He forced her to have sex with male escorts while he watched and recorded it. When he found out Cassie was seeing another man, he became furious and set out to find them. He woke an employee to drive him to the house, but no one was there. That didn't stop him. When he finally found Cassie, he beat her brutally, kicking her in the back, flinging her around like a rag doll. And still, it wasn't enough. He told Cassie he could release the videos of her with male escorts. He broke into another man's home and blackmailed his own girlfriend. These are not isolated incidents. Cassie is not the only woman he beat and sexually exploited. These are just some of the crimes committed over a 20-year period. He operated a business, Bad Boy Records, that gave him access and power. He relied on his staff, including bodyguards and chiefs of staff, to manage all aspects of his life. They helped him promote and protect his image, but also executed his orders, kidnapping employees, setting a car on fire, dangling a man off a balcony. His team delivered drugs on command. Even to women he forced into sex acts with escorts. He transported these women across state lines and internationally. Let me be clear. This case is not about a celebrity's private sexual preferences. This was criminal. He used coercion, manipulation, and violence. Much of this trial will focus on two women, Cassie and Jane. You'll see how the defendant used lies, drugs, threats, and abuse to force them to perform sex acts in front of male escorts. He called them freak-offs or wild king nights. His staff arranged the flights, cars, and hotel rooms. At his direction, rooms were set up with lubricant and specific lighting. Staff entered with envelopes of cash and delivered drugs. He made these women take MDMA, Molly, ecstasy, drugs that made them sick but also sexually aroused. He directed every move. He expected them to appear to enjoy themselves. He would masturbate and record the encounters. Cassie was only 19 with a hit song. Cassie wanted to work on her music, but the defendant blocked opportunities. He had final say over what she could release. There was never another album. He hit her in the head and dragged her by the hair. He stomped on her face in an SUV, then forced her to stay in a hotel for a week to hide her injuries. These freak-offs happened as often as once a week. He once made an escort urinate in her mouth. You'll hear testimony that he beat her in a hotel hallway just to drag her back into one of these events. At first, she wanted to please him, but eventually she resisted, and when she did, the consequences were violent. He once beat her for taking too long in the bathroom. Defying him meant punishment. She tried to flee, but he always found her, with the help of his inner circle. Her career was in his hands. He told her he would destroy her and release the videos. So when he said it was time for a freak-off, she obeyed. She contacted escorts. She performed. Her safety depended on his approval. The relationship was complicated. Yes, both were unfaithful, but only one of them had power. He made Cassie obey in dark hotel rooms, and she was not the only one. Let me tell you about Jane. She was a single mother who began seeing the defendant in 2020. She fell in love. He was seeing other women, but she stayed. One night, he told her about the freak-offs and made it happen immediately. He took her to a hotel and walked her through each step. Jane thought it was a one-time wild night. She was wrong. He kept doing it, dangling a real relationship to keep her in place. Jane asked that the escorts wear condoms. He refused. She tried to make it through these nights without drugs, but the first time, she broke down and took ecstasy to finish. Another time, she vomited. He told her to go back in and finish anyway. Eventually, Jane tried to regain some control. She found two men herself, hoping to choose who she'd be intimate with, but the defendant pushed her back into the system. He discouraged her from working and threatened to expose her. When she resisted, he threatened her with videos. Less than a year ago, he went to her home. They argued. She hit him. He became enraged. She tried to hide, locked herself in her bedroom. He kicked it open, then the bathroom, the guest room, the closet. He chased her, kicked her to the ground and told her, "You're not gonna f my night. He demanded she call an escort and perform. She did. You will hear Cassie tell you that the defendant forced himself on her. You will hear from Mia, his employee, about how he forced himself on her too. Hand up her dress, penetrating her. Amid all this, he and his inner circle worked tirelessly to cover it all up. You'll hear about the LA hotel surveillance video, about how the defendant offered a hotel guard a brown paper bag with $100,000 in cash to stay quiet. You'll hear how his staff helped hide Cassie for days. For all of this, the defendant is charged with multiple federal crimes, including racketeering conspiracy. Cassie and Jane will describe the most painful experiences of their lives. You'll also hear from the defendant's employees, like Mia, his personal assistant, who says he sexually assaulted her. You'll hear from the employee he forced into an SUV at gunpoint, and from a chef. These workers put in punishing hours, often without sleep. They delivered drugs for him, and they were expected to stay silent. Some of these witnesses have already received settlements. You'll hear from escorts too. Escorts who say the defendant directed them, paid them, and filmed everything. One escort saw him assault Cassie, dragging her by the face during a freak-off. You'll see hotel records, receipts for damage, car service logs. You'll see text messages in which the defendant instructs staff to bring cash for escorts. You'll read Jane saying she didn't want to do the freak-offs. And you'll see videos. In them, the defendant can be heard directing Cassie and Jane, high on ecstasy, on what to do. You'll see the video of him brutally beating Cassie during a freak-off at an LA hotel. You'll see photos of the physical damage, including to 4 doors in Jane's home. You'll see what was found in his residence: guns, a medical bag filled with drugs, lubricant. You'll see the written agreement barring the hotel guard from ever speaking again, after he accepted $100,000. You'll hear how the defendant manipulated Jane into saying she wanted it. You'll see texts where he threatened not to pay her rent. You'll hear the messages he sent to staff, making all of it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to do 3 things. Pay close attention to the evidence. Follow the judge's instructions on the law. Use your common sense. And you will reach the only possible verdict. Sean Combs is guilty.
Now it is the defense's turn.
This case is about love, jealousy, and money. The government is trying to turn it into a racketeering case. It will not work. You, the jury, will evaluate the witnesses. And finally, the full story will come out. This case is not about what you've heard on the news. Sean Combs is a fascinating individual. He grew up in Harlem and built lawful businesses. He worked for everything he achieved. He created culture and produced music that defined a generation. Witnesses will tell you about his charisma. People were drawn to him. If you wanted to rise in music, apparel, or beverages, you wanted to be around Sean Combs. He gave people opportunities. He had a vision that few had, and most of the witnesses loved him. The text messages will reflect that. He's 55 years old. He's going to be Sean Combs. I'm Tenny Garagos, and I'm honored to represent him. The only people who will say this is a racketeering case are the prosecutors. There was no conspiracy. This case is about Sean Combs' private sex life. The government has no business policing that. The people who worked for him were hardworking and well-educated, from Harvard to Howard. Yes, Sean Combs has a temper. He has gotten violent. He's not proud of that. We own that. Sometimes he gets so jealous or angry that he's out of control. You'll hear that he lied to girlfriends. You may think he's a jerk or mean, but that's not what he's on trial for. He's on trial for running a racketeering enterprise. This is domestic violence, not sex trafficking. If he were charged with domestic violence, we wouldn't be here in an 8-week federal trial. The government is overreaching, and we won't shy away from calling that out. Sean Combs has a different kind of sex life. The alleged victims were adults. They were getting things from him: money, travel, status. They made choices. And like anyone who makes choices, they bear some responsibility. You will have to evaluate these women. Ask yourself, what options did they have? What were they getting? What did they want? Jealousy drove many of the choices made by these women. Sean Combs never married. He was always in multiple relationships. He was not always honest. And that dishonesty created jealousy, primal jealousy. Cassie, Gina, Kim Porter, all of these relationships overlapped. Sean Combs is extremely jealous. You might think it's hypocritical, but it's not criminal. These women remained in multi-year relationships with him. They loved him. Violence in the relationship, when it occurred, was driven by infidelity and jealousy, fueled by alcohol and drugs. But Sean Combs is not a racketeer. This case is about his personal relationships with Cassie and Jane. You'll hear testimony about swinger parties, about things that may make you uncomfortable, things that maybe shouldn't even be heard in a federal courtroom, but that's not a crime. That's not sex trafficking. He liked to watch. You might not like it, but that is not what this trial is about. Yes, Sean Combs paid for homes, vacations, and lifestyles. That doesn't make him guilty. These women fought to be in relationships with him. Cassie, whom I expect you'll hear from this week, was in a relationship with him for 11 years. He was also with Kim Porter, the mother of 4 of his children, until her passing in 2018. His relationship with Cassie was toxic, yes, but it was mutual. They loved each other. Cassie will talk about her jealousy of Kim Porter, then about Gina, the day of the hotel hallway incident. It was jealousy on display. You'll see the footage today. Yes, what Combs did in that video is indefensible, but it is not evidence of sex trafficking. Cassie walked out of that hotel room with 2 bags. Sean Combs came down wearing only a towel. He stomped her. He dragged her by the hoodie. Then he went back upstairs just to get a phone. Why would someone fight over a phone? Because phones hold secrets. Secrets of infidelity. Once he had the phone, he sat down, visibly disgusted. Cassie called hotel security. You'll hear from that guard later today. He told Combs to leave the public area. And then what happened? Cassie stayed. They stayed together for 2 more years. Even into 2018, they were trying to make the relationship work. They were fighting to stay together. When Cassie saw a photo of Sean with Gina, things fell apart. But Cassie still had a choice every day. She chose to stay. She was not coerced. When she left, there were no repercussions. She left and entered a relationship with the physical trainer Combs himself had hired. The only so-called freak-offs you'll see in this trial are on Cassie's phone, not Sean's. In November 2018, when Kim Porter passed away, Cassie flew to Georgia to be with him. Amidst a breakup, she still showed up for him because she cared. Combs told her Kim was his soulmate, and that broke Cassie. She realized she would never be what she wanted to be in his life. She wanted to be his wife. She spent 11 years trying to be that. She married the trainer, and she is now pregnant with their 3rd child. You'll need to evaluate Combs' intent over those 11 years. The messages will show that Cassie was a willing participant in their sex life. Her testimony cannot change the years of evidence you'll see. With Jane, in 2020, Sean Combs was upfront. He told her he was dating other women. She was still jealous. She wanted a public relationship. He proposed a consensual threesome. They went to a private hotel. I expect she'll say she enjoyed it. Jane was desperate to please him. She wanted to offer something no other woman could. She tried to make it more than physical. This was their time together. Jane did it for the closeness, the intimacy. She couldn't resist him emotionally. Even after a difficult phone call in November 2023, she flew out to see him again. And again, it was toxic. But it was also mutual. That's not trafficking. That's not coercion. It was jealousy, not control. She saw him on social media with another woman and sent him messages of regret. That's not criminal. Jane wanted to be in first place. That was her motive. That's why she stayed. Not because she was trafficked. There was an incident about a year ago when Jane hit Combs. He hit her back. She slammed his head on the kitchen counter. Months later, she flew to see him again. She invited an escort. She will describe it as one of her best nights, a wild king night, whatever you want to call it. Yes, it will be uncomfortable, but it was intimate. As for Mia, why now? Why is she making these claims? She never said anything at the time. Not even when she began cooperating with the government. Think about that. Everyone in this courtroom has a motive, including her. If it was all so hostile, why didn't they call the police? They didn't. Why? Because they are vindictive. Because their motive is simple. Money. Cassie filed a public lawsuit in November 2023. She was living in her parents' modest home in Connecticut. She went to a civil lawyer. That lawyer is in this courtroom right now. Cassie demanded $30 million. Another alleged victim asked for $22 million. So ask yourself, how many millions of reasons do these witnesses have to lie? The evidence won't support these charges. On bribery, yes, Combs paid a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel. Why? To make footage go away. It was for PR, for Combs, and for Cassie. There was no criminal investigation. On kidnapping, the woman allegedly worked for him for 10 years. She later asked to work for him again. On trafficking, these were drugs for personal use. Everyone worked hard. They were building something ambitious. It was their choice to be there. There was no conspiracy. Combs paid adult men for their time and experience. Porn actors get paid. Escorts get paid. Hulkamania, Cowboys for Angels. This is a real industry. You can pay for time and an experience. That's what Sean Combs was doing. This trial is not about your personal feelings towards Sean Combs. You are not here to impose your morality on him. You are here to apply the law. If you listen to the evidence and not the headlines, you will find him not guilty of these crimes. Thank you.
And those were the opening statements made in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. After hearing the testimony so far, and now hearing this, what do you think? Has the defense been proving what they said in their opening statements? Or has the prosecution? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you tomorrow.